So yeah, thank you all for coming. This is a show that I started with my company Modash, and then our collaboration with LIFT99 just kind of led to this beautiful thing where we bring a whole bunch of people to listen to the stories of really exceptional founders like Jevgeni here, who founded Zeroturnaround. You can see him on the Estonian Mafia Wall of Fame. At the bottom on the left with the star, which means he sold the company. We're going to talk a lot about that. But yeah, so as always, big thank you to LIFT99, big thank you to Modash, which is my company, kind of big thanks to Mari for running the sound and everything. So Jevgeni, without further ado, welcome to the stage.
Hello. I did the symbolic 2 steps up.
Oh.
I'm going to pour the water.
Yeah, okay. We got water. All right. This is the good part of the show, so pay close attention. All right.
This is official. It's actually very exciting to be here because I think this is the first time where people are paying specifically to listen to me. So I got to experience it's like adding another skill to my, like you play an RPG, you get like another skill. So the previous one was when I was learning to play piano, and then Boston had an event where they put 50 pianos just on the street, and so I sat down and played one, and somebody threw me money. I was like,
what?
All right.
I had no idea you play piano.
Well,
I thought we were friends.
Very badly, but apparently well enough to get paid.
Nice, cool. So Jevgeni, you started a tiny little project once upon a time called Zeroturnaround, right?
Yep.
I don't know, I wanted to try and explain what Zeroturnaround is, and I couldn't come up with it just because it's kind of complicated thing, a little bit. So I thought I'd just show the picture of the original drawing of Zeroturnaround so you'll all understand. Oh. There, that's Zeroturnaround. So now you all know exactly what it does, right? So you see these lines over here go into those lines over there, and then those lines go up there and profit somehow. But maybe Jevgeni can do a slightly better job of explaining what all of this might mean and what Zeroturnaround actually is.
Well, obviously this is highly secret, so all of you will have to have your memory erased afterwards. So yeah, this is I don't even know, 2006 maybe. I drew something like that, and that was like the moment, the idea that gave rise to Zeroturnaround was that well, it was all very, very technical, pretty boring, but we were trying to, I was thinking about one particular problem that developers had, basically every time developers wanted to test something, they had to go through this lengthy process called compilation and deployment, and I just felt like it's stupid. And so I was thinking for a while, is there a way around it? And so I literally was walking in Mannheim next to the water tower. They have a very old water tower. And suddenly I understood how to do that. There was literally an eureka moment, and I remember the time and the place. It was August 24th, 2006 or something like that. And 12:05. and this captures that eureka moment. And so, the company that grew around it was the way I like to describe it, when there's a golden fever, if somebody found gold, struck gold, and you can do one of two things. You can either run and start digging for gold, or you can set up shop and sell shovels. So in our case, the gold rush was the whole tech thing, that suddenly developers were very important. Suddenly there was not enough engineers. Suddenly they were paid a lot. Suddenly, they were at the center stage. And we were the guys who were making tools to enable them to work a lot better, right? So we were the guys selling shovels, and that was a business.
So the real problem in compiling, from what I do understand, because I tried my best, was that especially because Jrebel was the big tool, and what Jrebel allowed people to do was to deploy their code without having to upload it to a server separately. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, something like that. It was more like that. you could change stuff like in real time. So you could change a line in your code and you could see how that code behaves in an app right away. And that was quite complex. Like, there was like actual computer science involved, to the point that my PhD was at least 1/3 about that, and really that was what made my doctorate. So it was fairly. It's okay not to understand that. I barely understand it now either.
Yeah, so it came out of your PhD, or you had the idea and then you started your PhD in Tartu, correct?
I don't even remember what was first. I think at the time that I had the idea, I actually was doing my master's.
Okay.
And so it kind of evolved, like, because we had a patent application, and then since like PhD isn't awarded for doing specifically scholar, like kind of this work in the university, it's awarded for like academic achievement. So like since that patent was definitely computer science, so I just built part of my PhD thesis on that.
Okay, and so at what point were you like, okay, this was a PhD thesis, that's cool, but maybe I could actually make some money with this thing?
Well, it was the other way around, actually. I was when I got the idea, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is such a big problem. This is like millions of hours, tens of millions of hours wasted every day by people around the world. There gotta be some effing money in this. Like,
there's gotta be a better way.
There gotta be a better way. There's somebody somewhere should be paying for this, because like it's just insane what's happening right now. So yeah, I just felt that there should be a market for it.
And what year did things where the business side of the project kind of start to come?
So 2007, I spent most of the year building this. Tom Römer, who's my co-founder, joined along the way. And I think in September, October, we shipped. And I think we had like a week to the first sale. And then it took us a bit over a year, I think, to break even. But
that's not bad, actually.
But mainly because we sucked at sales like badly. We just didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. Okay, so that was in 2007, you said.
Yeah.
So that means that like a few years later, actually, that was sooner than I even thought. So 2007's there, you work for a few years, and Skype kind of makes this big exit. And the reason I bring Skype up in particular isn't only because I'm trying to appeal to the crowd and some of you are Estonian, but because particularly you said in an interview that Skype really had an impact on you or on the ecosystem here when they did the exit in 2011, I think, and for 8-ish billion, which is crazy for Estonia at the time.
That was Skype's second exit, right?
Yeah.
Because the first exit they did, I think, in 2004, and it was for $2.5 billion, which was still an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
And I think Skype was huge for Estonia because it opened a door in everybody's heads that it's actually possible to build $1 billion company in Estonia. That was insane because it's just seems such a small place, but I think it opened a lot of big thoughts.
What was for you, and what was the experience like to be a part of all that? Because you would have been really building your thing, especially when the second exit came. You guys were going, and then, oh my gosh, it turns out you can be an $8 billion company. That's crazy. Like, that's a thing that's possible.
Yeah, I must admit I don't remember so well like what we were doing during the second exit. I remember just thinking, Jesus, how clever those guys were that they managed to sell the company a second time. That they literally held over key IP so they could sell the company a second time. How did they do that? Is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it was definitely really, really cool.
And so the beginning, it was you and your co-founder Thomas, yeah. And you got going. What was the first bit of time like? It took you a year to get break even, and then suddenly you were rolling in dough, or what?
Yeah, we were very profitable for like a decent while pretty much until we took venture capital in.
Okay, what happened there?
They made us spend money.
Okay.
Not made us, no, but they were like, if you take in VC, they have a bit of a different mindset, especially from, now it's changing here as well, but especially at that time, Estonians, and I count myself as an Estonian, tended to be fairly conservative, and we were like growing decently. We were profitable. We didn't really need any money from outside. But like, no matter how fast you're growing, VC is going to be like, why can't you grow faster? Well, you have all this money. Why don't you put it to work? Because they don't care about the profit. They couldn't care less. Like it's just the model doesn't work on profits. The model only works on growth. So whenever they see profit, they're going to ask, how can you convert it into growth? And I won't say that especially somehow that they pushed us or something, but just like with them came a certain mindset, and we learned from it, and we were starting to try how do we put that money to work instead of just thinking let's do more of the same.
Mm-hmm. And then that was when you weren't so profitable anymore.
No, we've been since something like 2013, 14. I think we were burning. We were burning money and adding growth through burning money.
Yeah. Okay. In the very beginning, I know you told me that there was an idea that you guys had that actually ended up kind of being borrowed without asking by somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had a conversation with Oracle, I think, and they I don't remember actually if we signed an NDA or anything like that, but just. We had a conversation, and we're actually exploring a partnership and so on, and somehow entirely unrelated to that, a very similar technology to ours was released in their next release. So, so it was an interesting experience because, it's just kind of happened.
Yeah, that was a separate product other than Jrebel, or that was?
Yeah, that was they built a similar functionality in their software, and it certainly came after our conversation. I don't know if it was related or not. Oracle lawyers, in case you hear me. But yeah, it was just like an interesting experience because we're talking to a big company, and and they certainly learned from us, if nothing else.
Yeah, did that at all kind of hit you in the heart because this would have been in the early days, and as a first-time startupper, I think obviously you're highly educated and stuff, but it still hurts when somebody, especially when you think that you're going to be a partner and you're going to be part of this big thing, and then.
Well, we weren't that far afield. I mean, we weren't that far into the process. And looking back, it was just like a bit stupid as well because big companies like that don't usually buy technology. They buy customers. They buy products. We didn't really have a product at that point. We had technology, and so it was a very predictable outcome, which is hard to predict at that point. But looking back, it's exactly what I would have expected to occur.
Yeah. When did you decide that you had, if you were very profitable and you're doing super well, really, by most metrics, what made you make the decision to go ahead and raise money and take VC money that first time?
Well, we actually didn't take VC money. We didn't raise. What happened was that when we started, we partnered with Media, which is now Nortel, and they funded us for the first couple of years, and then we kind of took the company out, and at some point, I think that was 4 years down the line, 2011, they really wanted to sell their stake, and so we had a deal together. We didn't have a lot of heart into that. I don't know why now. But we found somebody. We had a friend of a friend who was working in a corporate VC arm of Quest. Quest was like a software company that sold to Dell. Now they're part of Dell, and so we had a deal with them that they'll invest. We had the valuation worked out, all this stuff, and at the last possible moment, the corporate yanked the deal from under us because they said, "We'll buy the company, we'll acquire it, but we're not going to invest." They just didn't want to invest. And so we had another friend of a friend who's already doing this whole procedure. He was like, guys, if it doesn't work out or something, I have some guys and I can put together, and I can definitely, I can probably put together investment for you. And so after that fell apart, we didn't want to get acquired. He brought along, he kind of came in and he brought in Bain Capital Ventures, and we didn't even know who they are. They were just guys. And turned out one of the top VCs in the world, but they just came in through a friend of a friend who I've seen on some conferences sometimes. So
And you told me, I think, that you walked into the Bain meeting and you kind of still didn't know who these guys were.
Not really. Yeah, I did not do enough research. Like I mean, I realized they were a VC fund. I just didn't know that they were like one of the top dogs. Like I thought they were just just some guys. Like it didn't like really help or hinder anything. It's just more like looking back. It's funny how much luck played a role in like everything. Like it's just like there was a friend of a friend. Like the difference if like Quest would have invested into us, like who are they're very far from being top dogs, and Bain, which is like now $1 billion. Like their latest fund is I think over $1 billion. Their fund at that point was 650 million. They're big. They're one of the biggest funds in the world. And the difference in just caliber, the difference in quality of guys you get access to, the network, the talent is just incomparable, right? So through sheer luck, we instead of getting like some third-rater, we got somebody who's like really, really, really top level, and that was sheer luck.
Huh. That was the first time you ever raised VC money.
Well, we didn't raise. We just media sold their stake to them. Like
Yeah.
we didn't get a penny of that because
Okay.
we were profitable and we didn't want any money. Like we were like, why do we want money? We have like so much money.
Okay, that's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it's actually a wonderful place to be in. Yeah.
You're a super technical guy, I think, or at least it
Used to be.
It began that way. Part cyborg in the beginning, perhaps. You did your PhD thesis in computer science. You started building this kind of revolutionary piece of software that really helped people save tens of millions of hours, which is a lot of lifetimes. At what point did you make the transition from that very technical version of Jevgeni to the CEO role in particular? Because that's one that I know was a big change for you.
Yeah, that one was a bit tough. Like I was in a mostly technical role, though I was like also leading product as a whole, and I always had some like kind of this CEO-ish role for the first maybe 3 years. But we didn't have a CEO role as such. We're inside with media, and like kind of a lot of this administrative and leadership stuff was still handled by media. But in 2010, 2010, we had like actually a guy who joined a year earlier became CEO, a Canadian guy, and he was CEO for 2 years. And he did a decent job, but like just for a variety of factors, it didn't work out. And so in 2012, I had like kind of a choice whether we parted ways, and I had a choice whether to search for somebody else or to assume the role myself. And then at that point, I chose to assume. And it's actually very interesting because before that, I was really afraid of that role, right? It was really scary. It seems like a lot of responsibility. It seemed like, I'm going to be stressed. I'll just, like, it seems so much nicer to play in my own corner and have somebody else be responsible for the whole thing. And I was absolutely right. 100%.
You told me once that you described the change from CTO to CEO as when you got to the CEO role, people started calling you about the toilets being broken on the other side of the planet.
Yes, that's the difference between any other role and the CEO role. In any other role, there's somebody who who's like above you, who you can kick the hardest problems to. And when you're the CEO, there's nobody. Like the buck stops there. And yes, my kind of best example was how. We had this thing where we had a US office and we had a lot of guys on the floor, like we had like kind of this open office, and so more people on the floor than on most other floors, and there just like was not enough toilets, and so people would go to other floors to use their bathrooms. And so some asshole from the other floor complained about it, and there was a whole thing, and then the building put locks, bloody locks. They just came and installed locks in all the bathrooms, which you could not activate with your cards. And some guys in the office got so upset that they threatened to quit over that. And so I had to, from Estonia, it was I think about like 1 a.m. or whatever. Like I had to solve like how to not, how to stop those key guys from quitting on the other side of the planet. Should I hop on the plane, and start like what should I like, that's like probably the most absurd problem I had to deal with. But there was a lot of like just weird stuff that happens. You have a lot of people, they have lives, they have things happening in their lives, they have things happening at work, they get married, they break up, they do drugs, they get in fights, it's just something is always happening.
How did the toilet story come to a resolution?
Well, my CFO, who's like the most amazing guy I ever worked with, and he just said that he's going to sue the other guys and he's going to get everything back, and and we're going to get more bathrooms, and so we sued the other guys, and we didn't win, but the process itself, the fact that we were doing stuff, calmed people down, and then everybody's just like, okay, it's good. So you went to the judge. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we claim that they're basically violating the terms of our lease by restricting access to the bathroom facilities on the across the building. There's nobody said that they had a right to do that. So it's we were within our rights, and we actually did have an oral agreement with the previous owner of the building. So that was the whole thing. I was like, I don't remember if I actually filed it. I remember we wrote some very strict letters. I don't remember if we actually went in front of the judge, but it was intense, yeah.
Zeroturnaround, we use whatever toilets we want. What else does a CEO do?
Well, that's pretty much it, Yeah, it's, the CEO's job, it's not like somehow fixed in tenure. Like, it varies across time, it varies across the size of company. The CEO does whatever the hell is necessary to do. That's if necessary, I will spend days reviewing legal documents. If necessary, I'll put up together PowerPoint. If necessary, I'll go and bring pizza. I never really. It's not a joke. Yeah, you go and you go and do whatever the hell needs to be done. It's just, and often it's like. There's a nice way of putting it. It's managing people. It's more like it's making sure. It's kind of like working as a group psychologist, honestly, making sure that people get along with each other, that people like kind of personal needs and wants don't get ahead of like the company's needs and wants, that people don't create kind of teams against the other teams, that there's no us versus them and them versus us, and these guys are trying to sabotage my quarter, and they're not doing enough, they're not pulling their weight. It's just like the blame, in a large enough organization, people are social animals, you inevitably will get all that comes with it. And a lot of like any leader's job, a lot of any manager's job is basically making sure that we stay on plan, that we're motivated, that we agree with each other, that that the work happens in the big team as it should happen, and it takes a lot of effort.
How many people did you guys have? Like, how many employees at the time that you made the transition to CEO?
I think we had at that time around 60, I think, 60, 70, and by the time we ended, we had over 200. By the way, I don't want to make an impression that that my people are flakes. I had like an insanely great team. They were very rational, very amazing, very talented people. It's just that doesn't make for good anecdotes, nothing else.
But I think even really great, amazing, rational people still sometimes have these issues that need to be solved, and part of your job, I guess, was to help with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you have a lot of them, then like even if like 95% of them are being rational and so on, then there's always there's always something somewhere which is problematic, whether it's team-wise, whether it's plan-wise, whether something has changed in the market, where they're just actually project management is a big part of it. Just like essentially companies just like we like to think about it as something cool, but like really it's a big bureaucracy which makes sure that we're doing work which no one person is capable of doing alone. We're doing them with a lot of people, and so in the end it's like it's a lot of it is just like kind of project management, making sure that everybody stays on plan, or like if the plan needs to be changed, then how to communicate that, of like if you're not staying on plan, then why. Like that's honestly the biggest part of it.
Yeah, and you guys weren't like playing the role of project manager. You guys weren't a small project, and I think one thing that's super unique about Zero Turnaround that was cool to see kind of juxtaposed to most Estonian companies is you guys had a ton of products actually. It wasn't like just Jrebel. You had 6 products in total, I think.
Yeah, we really had this kind of vision to create a software factory that we really wanted to not just crack the code on one product, but we wanted to crack and code on how to build products and how to bring them to market, and how to get talented people, and how to like kind of both attract and grow that talent. And we put a lot of effort in that, and I think we're reasonably successful. You know.
Reasonably successful, yes, I think so.
Well, you know, you always want to be like the billion-dollar company. That we didn't quite get there, but you know, we did well enough.
But was that part of your mentality that led Zero Turnaround to grow outside of just one product, or was that a product of just like natural selection, or what happened?
Well, I think it was part strategic, part emotional. Strategic from the point that we just believed that Jrebel always occupied a bit too narrow niche. It's an amazing niche. It solves a wonderful problem. But from day one, everybody told us that in 2 years, somebody is going to, you know, drive you out of market. It's been, by the way, it's been 11 years. I still don't see those guys. But every time we raised money, every time we did anything, like everybody was asking, so why do you think, you know, what's your, like, why do you think that like a big company won't come and just replicate that and like steal all your money? We were like, well, you know, here's 11 reasons. And like, but so we were worried about that, and more historically than later, when it became clear that it's very, very hard to replicate. But the other was just emotional, and it's connected to what drives me, what drives my co-founder. We love building things. It's just it's our passion. We wanted to build more things, and so we wanted to enable that passion in the company.
So building things.
Still my passion.
Your LinkedIn profile says a mad scientist all over again, or something like this. Is that what you consider yourself, this mad scientist?
That was just, so my business card, like all of ZT's business card, always had this little icon, a custom icon, which like says like, what are you, kind of, what's your alter ego? And so mine always said mad scientist. And I think it's, yeah, I was called that, it's from the Wikimedia days, I was called that in Wikimedia. I guess you should ask my colleagues from that time why, but apparently it's the hair.
Actually, there's a connection to the mad scientist, because I just learned that the idea came in a similar way, or somehow related to the mad scientist in Back to the Future, right? The idea for Zero Turnaround.
Well, yeah, I mentioned that already. How I was in Mannheim, and there was like it was more like we were talking before. I'm like, you know, I had an eureka moment. Like there's a moment in Back to the Future where this Christopher Lloyd's character says how he fell on the toilet, hit his head, and saw the flux capacitor. So I was just comparing that this is how Jrebel was born. Except for the toilet bit, but toilets came in later.
So you didn't hit your head off the toilet when you got the idea, just to make that clear. Another thing that makes Zero Turnaround really unique in the Estonian ecosystem, other than the fact you build many products, and I mean, obviously you're on this wall, so you have some peers, but there's not an infinite number of them, is the fact that you guys are a little crazy and out there. This is a little tame. I want to warm you guys up first. So this is just your Twitter. So we got like Dilbert comics, and we got really giant rabbits, and some funny memes and good jokes, really good joke about LinkedIn, and then really great startup advice. But what really struck me was when I started to find the real gems, such as this one.
Let's be a rebel, try time, non-committal. No way it's successful. This is really working. Fuck yeah, hey, I just fought you. Compound my
Is it? All right. We can do it again. So this is a video that
Isn't it embarrassing enough when I do it? We wouldn't do it once.
So this is a video that I found. Originally, I found it unlisted on Zero Turnaround's YouTube channel, and then I thought I was unearthing like gold. But I found out that it did actually get released, and it did quite well actually. This video. Oh, wrong one. So this is a Call Me Maybe remix, by the way, that Zeroturnaround did, and it was pretty impressive. They got like 30,000 views on this thing. And that's Jevgeni.
Compile my changes, no build, no deploy. Just test me, baby. It's hard to go back. Wasting my time, no build, no deploy. Just test me, baby. Hey.
It's like a time capsule.
This is Zeroturnaround. And so that's really unique to me because, I mean, there's not... Are you sure you're Estonian?
Well, not me personally, but yes. No, it's like actually, it's so funny. We always were a little crazy, and we always we always believed that we were doing this for fun. And so for me, the coolest part about it is that we have, every company has these values printed on the web page, and and once in a while, the CEO will remember that we have values, and he remind, hey, remember we have values, and so we also had that, we did that, and we had some values, and I don't remember what they were, but there was one which actually survived, which everybody knew, which if you asked anybody at Zeroturnaround, what's your value, everybody remembered, and that was whimsy. And so if you guys don't know what whimsy, can you translate what whimsy is?
Yeah, so just to recap, because we had a slight interruption there. So Zeroturnaround had a few values, and there was one that stuck.
Yeah.
And the one that stuck that everybody knew in the company was whimsy. I can't really translate to Estonian, but whimsy, you'll be more familiar with the word whimsical, the idea that you can create magical things, really, or...
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of like combining humor and creativity and absurdity and weirdness and just being a little crazy once in a while, right? And it's a really good word. I actually don't know how to translate it in any language, so not even Russian for that matter. But that was a value. That was the thing that did make us different, and that's what we were known for in the community, and that was cool.
How did weird stuff like that kind of shape the culture or shape the mentality of the people at Zeroturnaround?
People really loved it. That was, everybody, when we hired people, we always showed the weirdest stuff like this. If we wanted, it was actually really cool. Whenever we needed to show the culture of the company, we'd just show this video. one of many like it, and we always when we were raising money, when we were it was just very easy. So you guys understand us, here's the video. And it was super helpful from that point because it just nailed right away that that these are the crazy guys. They don't give them money, and people still give us money. That's just human greed that has no bounds. So in any case, but inside the company, I think we loved enabling people's creativity. This video happened, it was so ad hoc. I just remember how it was happening. There was this guy, Simon, who joined a little before, and he had this idea for the video, and he literally went in the office and kind of grabbed pretty random people. The guy who shot this, it was his first day at work. We sold him that. We sold him that you're going to be doing this really, really hardcore system engineering stuff, and but because he happened to be also very creative, he's one of my favorite guys in the world. He's half professional musician and half hardcore software developer. And every 5 years he kind of switched careers until he finally arrived at the point where they merged. I kid you not, he now develops for musical instruments and things like that, and it's really weird. Very super smart, super cool, super creative guy. But yeah, and so he was just basically grabbed, and he was made for his first week he was shooting that video. And he lives in Belgium. He came to Estonia for 2 weeks to learn the ropes, and on the first day he got grabbed to shoot this video. And then he was the guy who auto-tuned, who was cursing the hell out of all Estonians in the world because he was auto-tuning the singing, because apparently our guys were not so great at singing. And he said he was the Estonian accent had made it impossible for the software to detect the syllables. So he had to manually demarcate in audio every single syllable and then auto-tune it. So he did a lot. So it's basically I should name him Hert Bevin. it was basically his sleepless nights that made that happen. But the point was more like that there was a lot of people like that. There was all kind of like weird stuff like done and really creative, interesting shit being just done by people all over the organization, and that was really cool. That was something I'm really proud of and really, really happy about. That we built an organization where people were enabled to do crazy stuff.
And that wasn't even the best of it. So if I think we're good again. So here's another little short clip from a project of Zero Turnarounds. It's a little bit longer.
Was from the very birth of Zero Turnaround is that we'd like to dominate humanity.
I see. Well, that's a bold statement, and you heard it here first on WNN. Dominating humanity, that's a little bit of a change in direction for Zero Turnaround. Why are you going this route?
Well, from the time when I was a little boy, I really dreamt about dominating humanity. And so when I finished high school, I came up with a plan, a three-stage plan to dominate humanity. The first stage was making a lot of money. So obviously Zero Turnaround was an attempt to gather the necessary resources, which you can imagine are very considerable, to be able to build giant robots.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying stuff. What is Zero Turnaround's goal?
Although it may seem that our goal was to help people, then really our goal was to make money. So once the money is made, we go to the second goal, to dominate humanity. To dominate humanity is a nice thing, actually, because I truthfully believe that humanity needs to be ruled.
The next line is by me. So the giant robots actually exist. There's a whole GitHub repository filled with the blueprints, propaganda, all the information you need to start to dominate humanity. And I'm going to share with you the link so that you can check it out. But here's a few examples. They put a lot of effort into this project. Would you like to talk a little bit about dominating humanity, Jevgeni?
I'm very proud that this was... well, first of all, I'm really proud of that project. It was exactly what I was saying, that it was crowdsourcing. It's actually, I think, the term crowdsourcing, I'm not even sure if it was popular then, because I think it was like 2012 or 13. But, this was literally crowdsourced across the company. We just said the call, guys, we want to create an open source project of giant robots. And and we wrote up like a manifesto, that this is what we want to do. Like, ZT is a front organization, island layer, like giant robots Mark 1, giant robots. Like, we laid it all out and said, like, we want to create an open source repository so that where we create with all the stuff you need to create your own giant robots and build the organization necessary to dominate humanity. And so. The thing that is lost here is that was the time where I think it was about the time where Sun open sourced Java or something, or maybe it was right before that. And so there was a lot of jokes flying around about that they didn't have, like, there's no business plan there. There's just like, and so we kind of tried to play with that and say that we're open sourcing it because like dominating humanity, building giant robots requires a lot of resources, and so we understand that we alone might not be able to do that. So we're releasing this on open source so you could contribute and help us dominate humanity. It was like, we just want to crowdsource this thing. Like, we want you to help. And it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
It's one of those things that most people would say, like, it would be funny if we pretended we were going to dominate the world with giant robots, and then that would be the end of the idea.
It's stage 2 now, by the way.
But you guys put a ton of effort into this, and the company must have been super on board. I'm really interested in the other guy in the video, because he kind of appears as like a real main character in a lot of this crazy stuff. What role did he play in all of this?
So that was our chief evangelist. He was the kind of the guy whose literally job was, come up with crazy shit and get developers interested. Like, just, he was given the carte blanche and like, do whatever you need to do, get people excited. So he was this crazy, awesome guy. Still is a crazy, awesome guy, and obviously played a very central role in both of those things. Yeah.
And for you, what was Like, what was your mentality? You were on board for this? Was there ever hesitation? Like, maybe I shouldn't?
Giant robots was my idea, actually. Giant robots
Somehow
was my
I can
idea.
see
It
that.
just somehow really jived with me. I don't know. But I think Call Me Maybe, that was his. That was Simon's.
You made less of an appearance in that one.
Yeah, he was the one he was the director. You know,
Yeah.
he was wearing a weird beret and telling everybody, act out your feelings and stuff like that.
Was there any problem like getting people involved in that sort of thing? Because that takes some serious convincing in a way. Or you really got to get people like, yeah, this is cool.
No, I mean
You guys were just that into it.
No, there was always people who were not into that, but there was enough people who were into that we could always pull off stuff like that.
It's pretty impressive, like evidence of the culture you guys had or have, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's impressive to say the least. Was there other weird stuff I should know about?
Oh, there was a ton. There was a whole something.
Any other song parodies or?
Yeah. I don't remember. These were probably the two most the brightest example. There was a ton of small stuff. There was always something going on, always some pretense, always some joke running. We had our little mascots, and then we had our little we had our little stories, and we would come up with different stories for different years, and then we would just run through a lot of stuff, and and we had some medical theme for a while, we were curing, and we were showing up at conferences in lab coats and with giant injector needles, and and then there was a space theme, and there was astronauts, and yes. There's always some fun going on.
You really lived up to the whimsy value.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was great fun.
You told me that, quote unquote, I'm glad to hear this wasn't one of them, but you said that you made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I was wondering if there's any that you'd like to share that other people could avoid.
Yeah, I wish it was quite that easy, right? I think that probably the stupidest mistake we did, looking back, is just that we had this, like I said, we had this profitable, company which was just growing, and we didn't really understand that it's growing, and we took a lot of the ideas from VCs and let's try and grow it faster, without first really testing them out, the whole lean thing, it actually works. Start small and get bigger. And there was a few things that, especially just how we went from just e-commerce sales to people-driven sales. That was just something that we could have rolled out in a so much smarter manner. And so, yeah, my biggest advice, I guess, if you have something that works and you have an obvious way that you can improve it, be very, very, very wary of that obvious way. Nothing is obvious until you've tested it and you've proven that it works. It might seem like the greatest idea in the world, but until you've tested it, it's just an idea. And that was probably the biggest thing that we had to learn the hard way many, many times, that things that seem obviously good ideas, things that seem just it absolutely needs to be done. You do it, you test it, and and you can get nothing. You can get negative results. It's just things are the biggest problem with companies is that you're dealing with very, very complex and unpredictable environments, starting from your own organization, from some size, but most importantly, the market, all the different competition, all the different products around you, all the different interactions between your customers and other people, and so it's all this giant learning process and trying to understand what works and what doesn't, trying to understand the complex machinery involved, and its behavior is highly nonlinear and highly unpredictable. And when you understand that, and when you get in this mentality that, okay, here are the things that I understand, here are the things that I don't understand, and probably even within the things that I do understand is something that I don't understand well enough, and you get into this experiment, that everything is an experiment mindset, that really changed it for us. And this is a mentality that is really easy to apply, but it's super hard to apply consistently. Like, people will apply it like in one place. They will apply it like, I don't know, they'll do A/B testing, they'll do like, they'll apply it in the funnel, in the marketing funnel, but they won't apply it to their team. They won't understand that in their team, everything is an experiment. Or they won't apply it, they'll apply it to the product, but they won't apply it to the customer, to support, to the customer relations. So like, applying that consistently across everything you do, across strategy, across budgeting, across planning, that's the heartbeat, like getting into that mindset that we know what we know and everything else is an experiment. And so that's what I don't know, I kind of,
You really believe in lean then, or at least the idea of testing things.
Honestly, for me, lean is just scientific methods, applied to a particular, repackaged to be sexy. It's scientific, like if you know scientific method, you form a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, you have models which describe how the world works. All models are imperfect. So it captures basically like 95% of lean, right? And like lean just like kind of specifies it like, okay, how do you test the hypothesis? How do you form the hypothesis in this particular area? But yes, it's basically, I would say it's applying common sense consistently is the hardest effing thing in the world.
I've never heard somebody refer to lean as sexy before, actually. But I mean,
yeah, it's actually it's pretty sexy compared to like, I don't know, the Thomas Kuhn and the scientific revolutions, So it depends what you compare to. Like I have an actual PhD, so I actually had to read the actual philosophy, which which is a lot more dense than the lean books.
Yeah. That series of mistakes or lack of experiments or all of the things that maybe went wrong led to a pretty serious acquisition just last year by Roguewavesoftware. But it wasn't a smooth ride, from what I understand, the process of being acquired.
No, we had like, that was probably the most intense 2.5 years I ever had in my life, because what happened is we actually sold the company twice. So we had a deal together in 2016 where we basically were signing the contract and we were gathering the account numbers to start, so we could wire the money. And then about a couple of weeks before that could happen, like last stages of due diligence, negotiating the kind of the last issues in the contract. And 2 weeks before that could happen, we got sued in US, of course. If it would be sued in Estonia, who cares? We got sued in US. We got sued by like our ex-employees and really some lawyers. Really, these were not like we didn't have like ex-employees who were with us for any time, but they were just guys who weren't with us for long and weren't happy, and lawyers who found them and used them basically. And unfortunately, in US, unfortunately, in US, there's a very big industry of ambulance chaser lawyers, which just like find a niche and chase it and find people. And so they found our guys, and that was, by the way, one of the biggest mistakes we made. I'll get to it in a second. So we and we got sued, and it destroyed that deal for a variety of reasons. So it actually was quite intense because we weren't sure that the company will survive. When the lawyers kind of told us what our maximum exposure is, it was just insane. It was, it was a significant part of the value of the company, so we weren't even sure like how to get through that. But we ended up settling it for a lot less, luckily. But it's still like, it was still like we were counting like, well, a bunch of Teslas goes to the lawyers and a bunch of Teslas goes there, and we don't get any Teslas, like, actually the stupidest mistake in my life, and this is so weird, is that we didn't have like, sometimes the weirdest things matter, and compliance is something that startups are really bad at, like compliance to state regulation, government regulation. And sometimes matters a great deal. It mattered a great deal for us. It cost us an acquisition, and it cost us probably years of my life, running through that period. And it was just that we weren't asking people for this termination waivers, like, when you're when we fired people, like we had this sales, it had like a much higher churn in the sales organization than it's like in most other places in the organization, and you know, so people were coming, they were entry-level people, and sometimes they, you know, worked for a couple of months and it just didn't work out, and you know, they were let go. And we didn't ask waivers from them. We didn't gather waivers, and that cost us the deal. And so after that, after we settled the lawsuit, we actually went and found somebody else, and it ended up well. Obviously, you know, we're on the wall, we have an exit, but it was definitely very, very rough couple of years, very tough period of my life, very tough period for the team, and it was incredibly intense, and something I wouldn't recommend. But well, thanks to that, I have pretty much experience how to negotiate acquisitions, because I negotiated 2, and we had like a total of 5 bidders in those 2 acquisitions. So it was a lot of actual negotiation. So a lot of like, you know, useful experience came out of that for me and for the team. But like emotionally, it was incredibly hard.
I understand that. First, it's hilarious that you measured the lawsuit in the number of Teslas you could have bought, but I understand that it wasn't only fix the lawsuit issue or you don't get acquired, but it was fix the lawsuit issue or the company's gonna die.
Yeah, no, that was that bad. Yeah, it could have been. Like at some point we understood that it probably is not going to be that bad, but like you know, there was like 2-3 weeks when they told us a number. Like lawyers told us, well, it could be that. And you know, the reason it's not like we didn't know about the issue. We just didn't know that it was had such big exposure. Because our previous lawyers, our kind of main lawyers, they just told us, well, it's nothing special. It's like a few $100,000, and we are at that size where a few $100,000 is like whatever. And then the specialized lawyers we hired for that, who worked only on those issues, they're like, oh no, oh you naive, sad people, you know, oh no, multiply it by 10. And so it was. Even more than 10, I don't even remember. But like it was like, you know, they approached it in a completely different way, and then like, and so it's just U.S. You know, doing business in U.S. is from that point dangerous, because U.S. law is very complex. It varies from state to state, and even like if you hire all U.S. team, they not necessarily know how to, you know, all the bits and pieces of that, and so we had that case.
Yeah. It must have been like incredibly stressful, but eventually you battled through this thing, you settled the lawsuit, and you were acquired by Roguewave, which is why you have the lovely E next to your name here. How did that feel for you?
I was pretty happy. Yeah, it's just like, it was such an intense, like, because of this 2.5 years between, like, you know, settling the company by generally a very hard thing to do, because mainly because like you still have to run the business. Like you mentally have to kind of split into places. One where you're selling the company, the other where you're still running the business independently, and it's really, really hard. Not only that, but you can't tell most of the people that you're selling the company, because that'll be incredibly distracting to them. Might be incredibly demotivating, and it might never happen, because it's a process, and it will happen, you know, and it didn't happen, by the way. You know, it didn't happen for us at least once when we're all sure that it will. And so just that divergence in your own head, divergence in the conversations, and you have to remember who is in the know, who is not in the know. Like you know, you have to, like, you're kind of running a 2-track mind for a long time. It's very, very hard. And then of course, like after we had the lawsuit and all of that, that was harder. So by the time we sold the company, I was like, fuck yeah. You know? I was just very tired. It's just it was very intense for me for a very long time, and then like I was just very happy to not do it anymore. Like just do my own thing, whatever it is.
You decided to, because sometimes people get acquired and they decide to stick along for the ride and continue that position, but you took the other route and kind of completely cut ties with the company. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the other way around. People don't decide. Companies are acquired under condition that people stay. So it's usually the acquirer who decides. And luckily, our acquirer Roguewave, they didn't need a CEO. CEOs, by the way, is the one role that it depends on the style of the acquisition, but CEO is the most expendable role in the acquisition. Because all the other guys, they know how to do something. They're like functional. They they know how to do product. They know how to do sales. But the CEO is the guy who holds it together. And unless you plan to run the unit further as an independent unit, you don't really need a guy who can hold it together, because all of those bits and pieces are going to go to their departments at some point. And the CEO will be just this dude who's just hanging in the office. And sometimes you just hang on to that dude because you paid I don't know, 300 mil for the acquisition, and next to that 300 mil, paying another mil to that dude so that he could hang out in the office seems like a no-brainer, just so that you de-risk if something goes wrong. You have that dude sitting in the office, and he can risk it, but in this case, they did not, the acquirers didn't think that there was such a risk.
What was that like emotionally for you? I mean, you said being a CEO wasn't an easy job.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, and I think one day I'll want to do it again, but not soon. I just need time to recover from that particular job, but it's also great fun, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It's a tough job. It's amazing fun. You get to be the top dog. You get to do things your way. You get to set the vision, and you get to take the credit, and and so it's amazing fun. But it's also I don't know a single dude who sleeps at night. So it's just comes with strings attached.
Yeah. And now on to bigger and better things, but. Can you tell us how many Teslas you could have got versus the price of the exit?
Well, no.
All right, I had to try at least.
No, nobody comments on stuff like that. It's and honestly, it's not fun because I know that people have great curiosity about those things, and I do as well. Whenever I hear of somebody else, I also try to find out, but it's just
to a degree, it's nobody's business. I mean,
yeah,
but
mainly,
to a degree, we really want to know.
Mainly, everybody signed, confidentiality agreements with, big, or rather, I can't really say if they signed or they didn't sign, but in most similar cases, people would sign confidentiality agreements, which would not allow them to disclose shit like that.
Ah, okay. And what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? Well, this, that. Probably the most exciting thing happening for me right now is that I'm helping Startupwiseguys raise their next fund. I'm actually joined there part-time as a venture partner. So if you guys have cool ideas, we're the guys who turn those ideas into cool companies and make you a lot of money and make us a little money as well in the way. So just feel free to apply. Startupwiseguys has been around for a while, and they've been helping companies launch for 5 years now. And from September, once we close the new fund, we can also invest into your ideas, into your team outside the accelerator. So we also have a fund next to the accelerator. So.
Can you talk at all about your role in the venture fund and what the goal of the fund is, or the direction and that sort of stuff?
Sure, of course. It's $6 million fund, combined accelerator, and we're going to be writing 50, 100,000 euro checks. It's mainly meant for early stage teams, which can benefit from our help. We have good connections, and we can help teams get to their first product. Personally, I will be bringing my experience as a startup founder to the team. There are the guys are, I would say, more experienced investors than me, much more experienced investors than me, and and I kind of actually ran a company and sold the company. So I think together we have different facets of experience, and we just want to help people build something cool. That's the goal, really. It's the wonderful thing about venture capital is that, unlike most other style of investment, we don't care about the bottom line. We don't care. We don't care what do you guys do exactly. We're very aligned. We want to build cool things. We want to make the team successful, and that's all that we're doing.
So then I have one more question, then we're going to give it to the audience for a little short Q&A. But the last question is, I mean, your wife is here tonight. That's super awesome. What's the transition like out of CEO life into kind of, I mean, you get to be a family guy now, and you get to take apart your boiler with your dad, and you get to fix toilets and sail boats and stuff.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's been, what now, 8 months. It's been a really cool break. Things starting to ramp up a little now. More work, you know, less leisure. But I must admit that I really enjoyed spending time with my family. We did a trip around the world. We checked all the boxes. You know, like when you sell the company, you have this like a bucket list. You know, you gotta do a big trip. So we flew around the world with the family. Went on like all kind of adventures, deserts and mountains and Great Barrier Reef and Polynesia and, you know, and Hobbiton, by the way, in New Zealand, like the, you know, the little movie set. Oh my God, how cool was that? And we bought a house, you know, so we. And yeah, and then with the house comes the pleasures of house ownership. So my highlight of my time so far was when I fixed a boiler. Yeah, very complicated boiler. We have a diesel boiler. It has like injectors and pumps and like all that stuff, like which usually you don't see. And so that was quite a lot of fun, actually.
I don't know if you can see from where you're sitting, but the way his eyes light up when he talks about that boiler.
You know, my driving force is curiosity, and like I think I was always annoyed that I'm not enough involved in this mechanical kind of real engineering. I always considered myself an engineer, but I never actually did any of the actual, you know, physical, mechanical engineering things. And so, but I think I have a great passion to get into more of that at some point.